It actually takes you to the YouTube live stream.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it just makes it a little bit easier for everybody.
Oh, nice.
I live on the Murphy Creek Golf Course, and there's the pond behind us, which I believe collects water from rain and sprinkler runoff. And I've never seen it get to the point where it goes over like a spillway, which is intended, of course. And so this was a rain different from others.
Yes, it was.
Observation.
So,
And our golf courses. Ooh.
yeah, well, they become the natural collecting points, and in some ways you'd rather have it there than on your properties. We had a lot of calls about Expo Park as well, and that's actually the way Expo Park and Utah Park are designed to hold that water so it doesn't affect the properties around that. So it's easier to fix a park, and yes, a golf course, unfortunately, because it's a large area of land.
Doing what it's designed to do.
To a point, yeah.
Well, while we're waiting for Councilmember Coombs, hi everyone, good morning, this is Sarah. I actually have to hop off and hop into a panel here in a little bit, but I did just want to mention that this is Steve Fiore's last water policy committee with us. He is retiring on June 9th. And his replacement is actually Serving Miranda, who you're familiar with, who was our planning services manager, is moving over to our project delivery services position. So just wanted to throw that out there and let you know this is kind of a passing of the torch, and just wanted to mention that before I had to head out. So congratulations to Steve. Yeah.
How long has he been with us?
About 15 years, Steve, is that right?
It'll end up being just a few weeks short of 19 years.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Well, you know you have to stay 30.
Yeah,
I've been trying to convince him, unsuccessfully.
To start on the Prairie Waters project way back in 2004. So it was a fun ride and a lot of cool projects between now and then.
Awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thanks so much.
What are you going to do with your extra time there, Steve?
My wife's got a lot of things planned. We just picked up a travel trailer last weekend, so we're going to figure out how to RV.
Nice.
Excellent.
If I could, Councilmember Sundberg, this is Dan Mikesell.
Yes.
Yeah, as one leaves, a new one comes. I would like to introduce Kat Oklatoon. She is our new Deputy Director of Financial Administration. And she will be doing the quarterly financial report today.
Great.
On
Welcome,
the agenda.
Kat. Welcome. And I think I met you at BJ's with Marshall.
Yes, good to see you again, Councilman. And to everyone, yes, it's Catherine. I go by Kat Olukatun. And so, yeah, it's gonna take a little while for everyone to get. I understand that. Happy to be here. This is my second week on the position, and I come from the state of Colorado. I was there for about 8 years, and more recently with the Colorado Department of Public Health, where I oversaw the air and water division's budgets. So happy to be here and looking forward to working with you all.
Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome.
I see Councilmember Coombs is on. Welcome, Councilmember Coombs. Good morning.
Thank you. I apologize. I don't know at all what my computer is doing, so I'm joining from my phone.
No problem. We learned that Steve Fiore is retiring, and we're welcoming Kat as a new member. But let's begin. Any changes to the minutes from last time?
I'm good.
Okay, minutes are approved. And Steve Fiore, we welcome you to give your final construction change order report, sir.
Well, thank you. So one change order to report this month, and this was on the Griswold surge tank improvements project. This project's kind of a cool little project. We took the surge tanks out of the plant and moved them outside And what this afforded us to do is the second part of the project, which is called the cold start pipeline. And what this pipeline allows us to do is actually start the plant quicker. It allows us to put more water into the plant's clear well so that it can start the process of back flushing filters and all that to turn the plant on quicker than we could before. So a neat little project, but the cold start pipeline is what basically triggered this particular change order. While we were connecting the new pipeline to the existing plant pipes, we encountered a changed field condition. The inside of this plant piping, unknown to us because it's so old and we didn't have good records, had asbestos containing materials in it. So when the crew cut into the pipeline, asbestos was released within this part of the plant area. So all work had to cease, and we lost 1 month of time while an environmental contractor came in and cleaned up the asbestos. Unfortunately, the contractor had a lot of equipment and machinery in that area, and it could not be removed until the site was deemed clear. So this change order has several costs associated with it. One is the rental for all that equipment that just had to sit there while no work could be done on the project. And then because bringing the plants online and getting this kind of plant work is very critical. So we typically have like a designated time we want to have this work done by so the plant can come online and start treating water. We had to pay the contractor to effectively make up that 1 month time that was lost by working weekends and extended shifts. So we paid for some additional time for them to catch up and get the project done as originally planned. We had to pay for the rental of the equipment, and then we also paid to epoxy coat that inside of that pipeline to basically encapsulate that asbestos containing materials. So hopefully this won't be an issue again in the future. But that is pretty much the sad tale of the Griswold Surge Tank Improvements change order. Is there any questions I can answer?
Questions? Thank you, Steve. Thank you for that final report. And it sounds like case of Murphy's Law, but not John Murphy. He's given us the water supply update. Some people are going to think that this big rain is going to be a panacea for our supply, like even a council member or two we have on board, I think. But I believe reservoirs are about 53%. John, could you fill us in?
Yeah, I think that's right, Councilman. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
I always like to ask. Yeah, it was great rain down here. Unfortunately, that doesn't really help us in our mountain reservoir storage, except in the fact that it is keeping demand pretty low and stable down here. Just for perspective's sake, our winter indoor usage is about 30 million gallons a day. And we had just, prior to this storm, hit 50 million gallons for the first time like a week ago. And now we're under 40. It's gone, it's like 37, 38. So the demand down here in the city is relatively low, which is good. And I plan on turning my sprinklers on anytime real soon here. So that's going to be helpful. But the rain down here doesn't really help our mountain storage. We are capturing everything that we possibly can up in the mountains. There's currently no call on the main stem of the South Platte River, so essentially free river. So we are basically sweeping the river at Spinney Mountain Reservoir. We're taking and capturing everything that's coming in there under our junior 1973 water right. But the stream flow up there is still relatively low. It had been kind of around 100 cubic feet per second coming into Spinney. It's gotten up to, almost 140. So a CFS of water is equal to 2 acre feet of water. So if that helps. So we're capturing, 200 acre feet of water at Spinney every day. We are having to release some of that water because we have to maintain the river. So we are releasing still, but we cut way back on our Spinney release. And so we're capturing what we can up there. We're full, everything below Spinney, we're full at pretty much. So until demand comes up, that's kind of the situation. So we're moving in the right direction, but still snowpack really didn't improve up there with this storm. We got a tiny little bump. We're still kind of where we were snowpack wise.
Okay. A question from Councilmember Bergan.
Yeah, so you're talking about the South Platte where you're seeing the mountain snow, because every time I'm on watching the news,
Mhm.
it's raining here, but it's snowing in the mountains. So you're saying that the snow was not as impactful for the South Platte Basin as it was in the Colorado and Arkansas?
I think there may be a tiny bump in the Colorado, Arkansas basins as well, but even in the South Platte Basin overall, it was just there was some snow up there, but not the kinds of snow that really improved that snowpack.
Yeah.
It was just
Councilmember Bergan, I can share something. Let me show you this. This is our snowpack in the South Platte because it is 50% of our water. Just saying, I want to make sure. So you can see this is the bump that we got from the extra snow there. Here's where it was at its peak about 3 weeks ago.
Oh,
So there
okay.
was a little bit of a bump. It helps. Now it's hard to see on the screen, but this line I'm outlining right here, which is the green line, that is mean. That is normal.
Okay.
So for us to be at 100% snowpack, we would have had been somewhere up there. So yes, there was a bump, but it was not significant. When we talk about our snowpack, we talk about feet of snow over several months and the water that generates for us. So this was helpful. I'm curious to see ultimately how it impacts our storage, but John and I were talking earlier this morning, and we just don't feel it's going to have a significant improvement on our storage here. Because again, where the water was, and I don't know if you noticed my my social media posts that, let's see if I can get into that. It's not there. On this one showing where this is the storm as of Thursday, and it was huge here on the Front Range. But here's where we collect our water from, and you see where there's a big hole there.
So the blue is not snow.
It is snow, but it's not. But the blue is a much lighter snow. That's what we were seeing on news. The 1 and 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch
Okay.
snow.
Okay.
Um,
So Spinney's the reservoir that is the lowest right now, but
mhm.
Aurora Reservoir is like, I mean, it's like people are emailing me that it's
It is. And that is intentional. That's because that is the bottom of our system. That is basically, that's our wallet or our checking account. That's where we're going to use for the summer part of it, and then we'll bring more water into the mountains. So
Okay.
the mountains become our savings account, our CDs. We're pulling it all down early because you want to start the season with that full, because eventually we'll be draining that down. You see that happen every year where we keep draining it down over the year. So we half joked about maybe we should leave it empty just to help with the optics, but that's not operationally, that's not something we would do. The risk
So you're saying
associated with
it's
that
full
would be
because
phenomenal.
of the flow coming down from our other.
Right, exactly. We're filling it from Spinney Mountain. That's one reason Spinney was so low, was because we were
Okay, but
draining
the
Spinney
rain-
to fill Aurora.
But the
So,
rain I mean, we've had rain for 2
yes.
weeks and we
Mhm.
haven't, I know the forecast is definitely Thursday for tomorrow, Friday,
Right.
whatever, Saturday.
Right.
So isn't the rain though also helping in the Aurora Reservoir?
No, because we don't
Because it
capture. Matter of fact, we
less
we
from
intentionally
Spinney.
divert our water around Aurora's and Quincy because we don't want the water quality issues that be associated with, all that water rolling off of South Shores, for example, into the reservoir. Plus, we don't own that water. That water belongs downstream in the South Platte. So even in our stormwater ponds, we have a state obligation where we have to release that water within 72 hours because we can't hold it. It would be injuring a downstream user. That's where it becomes very complex.
Right.
The water that falls in Aurora is not Aurora's water.
That's what you have to explain tonight to my people at the town hall.
I know that.
the simple way to think about it is that Aurora Reservoir and Quincy Reservoir, for that matter, are in-town reservoirs.
Okay.
They are what we would call off-channel reservoirs, meaning that there's no stream that comes into those reservoirs. like Spinny Mountain Reservoir sits right in the middle of the river, right? And so
Right.
the flow that comes in, it was built there intentionally to capture the stream flow. Aurora Reservoir, Quincy Reservoir only filled up from our Rampart pipeline.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
I think
So
that's
it's
very helpful.
it's
Right.
pure mountain water from
Mhm.
Spinny Mountain Reservoir that fills Aurora and Quincy
Okay.
Reservoir.
And what about turquoise and the other ones? Are
Those are
they,
actually what fills Spinney ultimately. It's a very linear system, and I can explain that tonight with our
Okay.
standard map. But those, that's really our CDs. That's our long-term savings. We'll bring it into Spinney, which you can kind of consider a check, a savings account. That's our next step, and then we bring it into Aurora Reservoir, which is our checking account. That which we pay our bills every day.
right?
But
But
if you
I
need,
thought the other reservoirs were looking pretty good. I thought there was only two that were spinny and something was low. Am I wrong?
we're still at, well, I mean, combined, all 12 reservoirs, actually, as of this morning, actually are 55% of capacity.
Okay.
So we'll do well in Homestake
Yeah,
because the Colorado did very well for us. And that's one of the reasons we're moving water down into Spinning now from Homestake.
okay,
Turquoise and Twin Lakes are actually all part of that same system, as well as part of our Arkansas system. So we are holding, we have water in there, but we're moving that into Spinning as fast as we can as well.
okay. Thank you.
But regardless, we're still at 55%. That's the number that's really what drove the entire request for a drought
Okay.
declaration. And the optics are interesting on this one because you look at your window and you see something very different. And we understand that. So
Councilmember Coombs.
Yeah, so as far as the way that system functions, when we have Wild Horse online, what part of that system will Wild Horse be? I know it's not like imminent, but
that is a great question, and we wish we had it online today for that reason. There are two things that Wild Horse will do for us. Mostly, when you think of Spinning, think of it as kind of a Grand Central station, because not only do we collect all of our water, most of our water from the South Platte in there, so it's a point of collection, but it's also where we're moving all of our water from the Colorado and Arkansas basins into. So it's two functions. And some years it's actually a challenge to manage because we could have a lot of water in the South Platte. We may have to make sure we have a lot of room in Spinney to capture that water. And in the meantime, we're bringing water over from the West Slope. What Wild Horse allows us to do is we'll use Wild Horse exclusively for Western Slope water for our Colorado and Arkansas rights. And we'll use Spinney to capture our South Platte rights. And so we can separate those out and manage them a lot better. Obviously, the water will still pass through Spinney, but we can manage it better by having two buckets. Plus, Wild Horse being twice the size of Spinney, 93,000 acre feet, that gives us a huge buffer in that. So when that is full, that would have a serious impact on how we do our calculations for water availability. Because remember, water availability is not just reservoir storage. It has to do with our the availability of water in town. So we talked about a 30-month water availability. If we have more water in storage up there, that increases that water availability. So it would definitely provide us with additional drought hardening over time. We wish we had it online today. It would have made a big difference this year.
Further questions?
It looks like Marshall's joined us from the car.
Marshall's
Yeah,
mobile.
the other thing, Councilman Coombs, to your question that is interesting is our lower South Platte water supply, which is what comes from our prairie water system. We're looking at the possibility of if we can move some of that into storage, say in Aurora Reservoir. With Wild Horse online, it gives us the opportunity to keep more of our mountain water up high. So Wild Horse, unfortunately, is a ways out, but it affords multiple opportunities that we think can be beneficial to our system.
Thank you. Further questions or clarity needed? All right.
I
Thank you.
guess just to follow up on the supply. So this was a big rain. It's May. That's not surprising that we would have a lot of rain in May. If we were like, what would it take hypothetically? How much more snow in the mountains and rain down here would we really have to have to even be able to end the stage 1 drought declaration?
And that is a great question. And we're meeting in a couple of weeks to talk about that. Our drought action team meets on a regular basis anyways. And we know that this is a challenge here. We'll have obviously we'll have a firmer idea by mid to late June about where our storage ultimately lands, as well as what demands are, because it's a combination of both. This is helping right now with our demands. If we can keep this rain going so sprinklers stay off, that will help reduce the drain on our reservoirs. As we've mentioned, it's probably not helping a whole lot with the filling of our reservoirs. So it's really, we're hesitant to give a hard number on this, but it goes back to that 30-month of supply we want to provide. So by mid to late April, we should have a fairly decent idea about where we stand with the current water availability declaration. So I wish there were a clear answer. We're trying to avoid that hard reservoirs at this level, because it depends also what your demands are. If all of a sudden the spigot turns off after next week, and we've seen that happen in Colorado quite a bit, if we start seeing a lot of hot, dry temperatures in June rather than late July, that'll impact our demands as well. We're just that 55 or 50% capacity on the reservoirs is what makes us nervous ultimately.
One more question, sorry.
Councilwoman, yes, go ahead.
Well, so because they said this on the news as well, that, and I can't remember what the percentage was, but for 4 feet of snow equaled, I think, 4 inches of rain equivalents or something. It was something like that. So I was thinking about, remember when we had that 4-foot snow that March way back, whatever year, it saved us, right? So, but that was down here.
It
And
was.
so that
there
really
too.
equates
It
to
was.
not much rain.
What helped us that was a 2003 snowstorm. Actually, it did have a huge part of that snowstorm up in Park County.
Yeah.
So that helped us a lot. However, that saved us for 1 year. That helped a lot. Again, it was an optics thing as well, because for the next 3 or 4 years, we had to recover our storage back up, and we did that mostly through leases from the lower Arkansas. So that's the complexity of the system, and I can show you in the chart tonight that we'll use our traditional chart that shows our storage over time, and you can see how that boost in 2003 helped, but it didn't take us completely out. It took us about 4 years to be completely out of that drought. That's just the way the system works. There are very few years where we get in one snowstorm or in one season enough to fill our reservoirs completely. We were lucky enough, for example, in 2014, 2015, where we had a series of storms that did that. Is that an anomaly, or is that the norm? If you look at the pattern of the chart, you see it seems to be more of an anomaly than it is the norm. So
All right.
I know it's phenomenally complex, and we'll exercise all these messaging points tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Any further questions about water supply? All right. Moving on to Kat with the quarterly financial reports.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. So I'm going to start with the revenue first and then go over to expenditures. And then please feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions as I go along. So I'm going to do the update on the first quarter of 2023. Combined operating revenues for sewer, water, and stormwater are just 1% lower than planned. They're a little bit higher than 2022. For sewer and stormwater, we expect to end the year within 2% of the planned revenues. And then for water, it's a little bit more complicated. We'll have to see how the weather is and also how the drought restrictions impact. And so we will be monitoring that very closely and let you know as we update those. For combined development revenues on water, sewer, and stormwater, we are 27% lower than planned. And that's really likely due to increased inflation rates, interest rates, and just the possibility of the recession, which has impacted new construction. And so we will be monitoring those really closely and provide updates as we monitor growth and let you know how that progresses. So any questions on revenue? Okay.
I'm sorry, please proceed.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go to expenditures. Total operating expenditures for sewer, water, and stormwater combined are aligned with spending, and so with planned spending. And so right now we don't have any concerns. For overall operating expenses, they're lower than planned, and that's mainly due to vacancy savings, and then lower than expected spending on supplies and services. And so I'll note a couple of things. Obviously, I already mentioned vacancy savings, and so that has an impact. And also professional services spending on the lead service line replacement was lower. That was basically due to a move from operating maintenance to capital, and so there was no spending in the first quarter of 2023. Utilities were also lower due to lower than expected spending on home stake and pumping electricity. And then for vehicles, same thing. There is, we all know about the supply chain issues, and so that's impacted our purchases there. The department does have several POs in 2023, but to this point, we've only had a few vehicles actually delivered and paid for. And so that's where we are. We will continue providing updates and let you know how that progresses. Any question on expenditures?
Questions? Please proceed, Kat.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Oh, great. So obtaining vehicles is difficult. I wasn't aware of that.
Yes, it's just basically supply chain issues and transportation, and that's an issue that's, I think, at this point worldwide even. Yeah.
Thank you. I've got some barking dogs. Forgive me. Moving on to any further questions about the financial items?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Kat. Let's see, miscellaneous matters. City of Aurora is building this incredibly elaborate and beautiful building out to the north of the Aurora Reservoir. I'd like to learn more about it. And Greg, I think we're going to try and get a tour of that place.
Yeah, we will, but did we miss item number 3, Green Valley Ranch
it?
East Sanitary Sewer Replacement
Oh, I'm
Agreement?
sorry. I was moving a little too ahead of myself there. Let's discuss that.
Okay.
Sorry, that.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Daniel Pershing. I'm with the engineering team over here at Aurora Water, and I'm one of the people that handles these reimbursement agreements. So as a little bit of a refresher for everybody, we typically enter reimbursement agreements when a regional infrastructure is installed that is shown on our master plans. And so let's say a developer needs to install a 12-inch line, but our master plan shows a 24-inch line. We'll enter into these reimbursement agreements to go for that upsize. And so for Green Valley Ranch, we entered into one of these, and a little bit more specifically to this development, they have a developer agreement from back in 2009 where we agreed that any infrastructure installed over 12-inch, we pay for 100% of. So rather than the delta in pipe sizes, we pay out the entire pipe size. And so in Green Valley Ranch East, there's a section of sanitary in Rome where they installed 15 through 24-inch pipe. And I can see if I can share my screen here real quick.
1 second, Daniel, let me give you permission.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. You have it now.
Alrighty. Thanks, Greg. So there is this section in Rome Street where the developer installed 15 through 24-inch pipe. And so this is the section of pipe that we're paying out for 100% of the reimbursement rather than that delta due to that developer agreement. And so this is the agenda this is the item on the agenda for today. This portion of pipeline installed was a total cost of $330,103. And see here, the way we will be reimbursing this developer for this improvement is based on the development fees that we collect from all this tributary area. So you can see the shaded area around Green Valley Ranch East and a couple offsite developers as well. All the development fees that we collect when we have meter sets and such, that portion of funds will be directed back to this developer to pay for the sanitary upsizing. Any questions on that?
Questions for Daniel?
So not so much pressure. They have some questions. Kind of impact of the floodplain.
All right,
Oh.
thank you.
Okay,
I have a question.
we'll get Councilmember Bergan, please.
It's not, well, it's, so on the, well, I don't have it in front of me. The 300 whatever thousand, we're reimbursing 100 something. I don't have it in front of me. Is that because we already reimbursed them for the other amount? Or we're going to?
Good question. So currently there's 177,000 in those development fees that we've collected to date. And so since we have that bucket of money, we're proposing to reimburse them that amount of money that we've collected. And then as we collect the remaining amount, we'll reimburse them as those funds come in. Good question.
Okay, so is that the normal procedure? Because it just seems like they fronted the cost for that regional infrastructure. I mean, it seems like they're not getting paid on a timely basis.
Sure. And so typically the part of the agreement is that they incur these costs up front and then we pay them back as we get the fees collected. We can obviously only reimburse what we do collect, so it depends on the pace of development and what fees we have coming in. But since we did have that bucket of money from the COs we've already issued, we didn't feel it fair to withhold that money and just kind of in good faith make that first step of reimbursement.
Okay, great, thank you. I think somebody's talking.
Oh, the person next to me is also in a meeting. I apologize for that.
Okay, explains it. Thanks, Daniel, for the information. Any further questions about this reimbursement? Right. Sorry, I almost skipped over you there, Daniel.
You're all right. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Appreciate you. And then on to miscellaneous matters. Greg, what's up with this new building?
Okay. 1 second, so I think we've talked in the past about the SEAM facility, Southeast Area Maintenance Facility, out across from Capstick. We are getting fairly close to completion here. We're looking at moving in September. So we would like to give you a tour at some point. It's still an active construction site, so we could tour it sooner rather than later. One thing to keep in mind, we're going to actually start the water tour this year from SEAM. So we will be offering a tour then, but I guess I wanted to offer up a tour for the Water Policy Committee, or we would open up to all the council if you want your own tour, or if you want to wait until the water tour to see it. It is an interesting facility. If you're not aware, most of water will be moving out here. This frees up a lot of space at central facilities, which have been overburdened for many years, matter of fact, for decades. So we're able to free up a lot of space there for the folks that remain there. And then eventually the SEAM site will become kind of a Southeast Area Maintenance Facility for the whole city. We're simply the first tenants there. So we're taking up just 1/3 of it right now, but we're pretty excited about it, and we kind of want to share our excitement with you. So do you have a preference on, whether you want to do a standalone tour, or do you want to do this as part of the water tour in August?
Are both council members going on the water tour this year?
I'm going.
I am going. I just sent my I'm going email. I had some stuff I was sorting out.
Okay, good.
I would wait for the tour just because my calendar's crazy.
The efficient thing to do, it seems like.
It does. And it's a big facility. It takes about an hour to an hour and a half to tour it effectively. So it does take some time.
And could you just summarize again the reason, the purposes of the building?
Right. And the city's been looking at this for several decades now. Matter of fact, I think there were some studies even went back in the late 1990s that showed that we were space constrained out of the central facilities. And with the growth of Aurora to the east, central facilities is really no longer central to the city. So dispatching all the public works, all facilities, all the water out there didn't make sense. It's the reason we created North satellite to help with the public works side of it. There's a south satellite facility down by Griswold, down by Hamden and Dawson, that provides fueling and some storage and materials area there, but it's not great. We have identified we needed a much larger facility for that future growth. So the city purchased this property a long time ago and has been through many iterations of the development of this, trying to kick this off. And of course, economic situation always was challenging here. By 2018, we had decided that we frankly were to a point we couldn't do anything else with central facilities. So we needed to pursue something here. We already own the land. So water developed a plan to move its operational facilities here, and we're also moving most of our administrative functions out here as well. Being the first tenant on site, that actually reduced a lot of burden on the general fund for when they want to expand their facilities out here and have more of a presence in this area. Because all the utilities have been put in place and much of the land has already been shaped for that. So it helps a lot with that. The real advantage here is that it has a fleet facility. So there's finally a gas station in this area, which police and fire have wanted for a long time. That's been a real challenge for fueling. So, that's the one general fund activity that is out there, but the rest will be for water. So Manny, it was just to anticipate that, we're a growing city. We need more space. We really need to jump into this.
Yeah, and fire and police were always complaining that they were wasting gas going the other direction and coming back.
Or they were buying gas at basically a retail level and
Yeah.
in that area on credit cards. Yeah. And especially with Capstick being across the street, this is a good location for that.
Interesting. Councilmember Coombs, did you have a question?
Oh, I think it'll be better to kind of see everything as it's more built out versus seeing it under construction.
It is
So
actually,
I'm
for
okay
the most
with
part, it is fully built out. Now they're installing furniture now. Now comes the punch list stuff. If you've ever built a house, it seems that finished work always takes forever. So that's why we're saying probably we'll be moving in September, August at the earliest, but September's our target date right now for that. So it is substantially completed now. When I say natural construction site, simply means that everybody has to wear hard hats and closed-toed shoes and things like that. So it's a little inconvenient for a tour now, but
I was mountain biking on the trail, in the In-N-Out Trail right next to it weeks ago. It's a pretty impressive building.
yes,
Price tag on it,
was about $140 million.
Gotcha.
And a lot of that's because we're the first tenant on site. So we had to do some improvements to sewer interceptor in the area. We're bringing power out, we're bringing fiber out. So it's the advantage. Again, that's the advantage of the general fund is, that cost has been incurred. So when the general fund decides they want to develop space out here for a southeast satellite, especially for streets, they could definitely use a presence out here. That most of that cost has already been absorbed.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any questions about that topic?
I just have a different miscellaneous matter, but I'm good on that topic.
Okay. So moving on, would you like to bring that forward now, Councilmember
Yeah.
Coombs?
I was just wondering if we could get a briefing on the programs that we have available for lead pipe replacement, as well as any discussion we may want to have on service line replacement. I had been contacted, I had some constituents at my meeting asking about kind of our in the city water infrastructure and the condition of that infrastructure and what, if any, lead pipes we have in the city, as well as just some other general questions about service lines and aging service lines and kind of the condition of those delivery systems from our system to people's homes.
Yeah. So we'll definitely plan for that's actually 3 different discussions because of the lead service lines. We do have a program in place where we're simply getting our ducks in a row on that. We will be presenting this committee shortly on that. There's some federal requirements associated with that. Most of that, however, almost it's exclusively taking place in Ward 1 because we're talking about homes that were built 1954 and earlier. Service line replacement is its own beast unto itself. And so we can certainly present on that. And then do you want to talk about city general infrastructure, how we maintain our water mains, for example? And that is a great topic because it is a big part of our operational budget and capital projects budget, so.
Yeah,
like
and
I
so there
said,
were just some questions of like, what is the condition overall of our water infrastructure within the city? You know, some of our cities have really, neighboring cities have very aging
Right, they do.
infrastructures. I think for the most part, we're on top of it because we dedicate quite a bit of money, but I think it would be good to have
Right.
just a briefing on that subject.
Excellent. Okay, so I'll talk with Sarah Young about presenting on that side of it, and then Todd Brewer probably want to present on the lead pipe. So we'll talk about that, and I can talk about the service lines for the non-lead pipe side. We've had some long discussions in the past on that. So I'm glad your constituents are asking those questions. Those are really important questions. I see the engagement. So.
Great. We'll look forward to that presentation. Are we working on a presentation about what we're doing in APS and Cherry Creek schools for education? Okay.
We originally had it scheduled for today, but tomorrow is the Youth Water Festival over at Community College of Aurora. So if you get some time, pop over there between 9 and 1:30. The presentations themselves take place generally between 9 and noon. Come on by and look at the presentation. We basically take over the entire campus at Community College of Aurora. 1,000 fifth graders, so it'll be a lot of contained energy. It really is a lot of fun. And then, of course, we have hydrant judging. If you're capable of being there from 1 to 1:30, we have a hydrant painting competition. So the kids get very creative, and I hope it does not rain at that time. We've had that in the past. Basically, everybody's hydrant turns into a little Monet. It becomes a little watercolor. So it's very creative. But get a chance, get out there. So yes, we are on. We did so we had it queued up for this meeting, but because of Youth Water Festival logistics, we deferred it to next month.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Any other miscellaneous matters or questions? Okay, well. Happy trails, Steve Fiore, and enjoy the RVing, and also welcome Kat. Our next meeting will be June 21st, and have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Bye.
Everyone.